Adam Silver has found himself in some serious hot water over the management of the WNBA, and is they faking rape?
You've been watching this all season, haven't you? The tension, the awkward interviews, the way league officials kept dodging questions about who really saved the WNBA this year. Well, the mask just came off. Adam Silver sat down for what was supposed to be a routine interview about league expansion, and instead, he accidentally confirmed everything you've been saying in the comments for months. The WNBA isn't just struggling with money. It's got a full-blown civil war happening behind closed doors. And here's what makes this absolutely fascinating. While Silver's scrambling to control the damage from his own words, Caitlin Clark hasn't said anything. Not a tweet, not a statement, not even a vague Instagram story. She's just out here signing $500,000 speaking deals and watching the league implode without her. That silence. That's the most powerful move she could possibly make right now. Many of you called this weeks ago. You said the league was protecting the wrong people. You noticed how quickly they'd defend everyone except the player actually filling arenas. Reading between the lines of Silver's interview reveals something the WNBA absolutely does not want you connecting. This isn't about basketball anymore. This is about power, control, and what happens when the person you need most realizes they don't need you at all. If you believe the story behind the story matters, smash that like button. It tells us we're on the right track while everyone else is just reading headlines. So let's break down exactly what Adam Silver said and why his PR team probably had a meltdown the second those words left his mouth. He sits down with NBC News, right? Standard corporate interview. They're talking about growth, historic ratings, all the usual polished talking points. And then somewhere between praising Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's leadership and discussing expansion plans, Silver drops this absolute bomb. He says, and this is a direct quote, "The WNBA has relationship issues with its players, not financial challenges, not growing pains, relationship issues. Like they're a couple in therapy trying to figure out who forgot to take out the trash." Except this trash is a multi-million-dollar league that's supposedly experiencing rocket trajectory growth. The internet went nuclear immediately because what Silver just did, whether he meant to or not, was confirm that the WNBA's internal dysfunction isn't some conspiracy theory cooked up by angry fans. It's real, it's serious, and it's bad enough that the guy who oversees both the NBA and WNBA felt compelled to address it on national television. Here's where it gets even messier. Silver tried to soften the blow by first praising Engelbert, saying she's overseeing historic growth and doing an amazing job. But then he immediately pivots to, however, we still have significant relationship challenges with our players. That's corporate speak for a gaffer. Things are broken, but I can't fire anyone yet, so I'm going to acknowledge the problem while hoping it magically fixes itself. Fans weren't buying it for a second. Social media exploded with variations of the same question. If everything's so historic and amazing, why are your players constantly calling out leadership? Why is Nika Ogwumika going on national TV to criticize how the league operates? Why did Candace Parker reveal on her own podcast that Adam Silver texts her more than her own commissioner does? That last one really hit different. Candace said Silver personally congratulated her when she had a baby, when she retired, and when she signed her Amazon deal, Cathy Engelbert, radio silence. That's not a relationship issue. That's a relationship absence. And if one of the league's most accomplished veterans feels more connected to the NBA commissioner than her own, something is fundamentally broken. But here's what you've been noticing that mainstream coverage keeps glossing over. This civil war Silver accidentally exposed. It's not just about player relations. It's about who gets credit for the WNBA's sudden relevance. Because let's filter out the noise for a second. The league wants you to believe their strategic planning and visionary leadership caused this rating surge. They want you to think it's the product of years of careful development and smart marketing.
He stepped out and started talking about the crazy nonsense of a civil war that's going on between Iron Man or Iron Woman, Cathy Engelbert, and Captain America, Nafisa Collier.
Except we all know what really happened. Caitlin Clark happened. She didn't just bring fans. She brought an entire demographic that had never watched women's basketball before. Families, young girls, even NBA fans who couldn't name 3 WNBA players last year can now tell you exactly when the Fever play next. She turned a niche league into appointment television. She made WNBA highlights go viral on platforms that had previously ignored women's sports entirely. She single-handedly shifted the conversation from "should we care about the WNBA" to "how can we get tickets to see Caitlin Clark play?" And that's precisely why Silver's "relationship issues" comment struck such a nerve. Because the subtext everyone heard was this: the league's leadership isn't united on how to handle the fact that one rookie changed everything. Some people want to celebrate her. Others seem threatened by how much power she wields. And caught in the middle is a commissioner who keeps insisting everything's fine while players publicly contradict her. Let's connect the dots you've been pointing out in the comments. The same week Silver admits to relationship problems, reports surface about how the WNBA conveniently changed how they calculate TV ratings this year. Suddenly, they're counting bars, airports, hotel lobbies, any screen that happens to be showing a game. The numbers look better on paper, but it's like saying you're taller because you started wearing platform shoes. Fans immediately saw through it. The league is desperately trying to prove they don't need Caitlin Clark by manufacturing growth metrics. But here's the problem with that strategy. The actual evidence tells a completely different story. When Caitlin got injured last season, viewership dropped immediately. When she sits out, ticket sales plummet. When she's not in the playoff picture, suddenly nobody's talking about the WNBA Finals. You were onto something when you noticed how quickly the narrative shifts depending on whether Caitlin's involved.
NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says Caitlin Clark has set the world on fire. Silver didn't reveal much about their brief conversation, but his admiration for Clark's achievements couldn't have been clearer. Speaking on FanDuel Sports Network, he said Caitlin Clark set the world on fire, not just this community. And it's easy to see why. From dominating college basketball at Iowa, where her famous number 22 jersey was retired, to becoming the first overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft, Clark has been unstoppable.
Regular season game with the Fever, packed arena, social media buzzing, highlights everywhere. Regular season game without her, crickets. The league can manipulate the math all they want, but they can't manipulate actual fan behavior. And this is exactly what makes Caitlin's current silence so powerful. She doesn't need to respond to Silver's interview. She doesn't need to defend herself or call anyone out. Her off-season schedule does all the talking she needs. While Silver's admitting to relationship problems and Engelbert's pretending everything's fine, Caitlin just closed another massive speaking deal. Reports suggest she's earning close to $500,000 per event. She's making more from talking about basketball than most WNBA players make playing it. That's not just success. That's independence. That's leverage. That's the kind of position where you don't need the league nearly as much as they need you. And everyone involved knows it, which is why Silver's interview felt less like leadership and more like damage control. Think about what's really happening here for a second. Drop a comment right now with your take. Do you think Adam Silver actually regrets admitting the WNBA has relationship problems? Or was this his way of throwing Cathy Engelbert under the bus without saying her name? Because the more you analyze his interview, the more it looks like calculated exposure rather than an accidental slip. Let me explain why that matters. Silver's not some rookie executive who doesn't know how PR works. He runs the most valuable basketball league on the planet. Every word he says in major interviews gets vetted, rehearsed, and approved by multiple people. So when he goes on NBC News and casually drops relationship issues into the conversation, that's intentional. He's sending a message, and that message is directed at everyone watching who's been covering for the WNBA's dysfunction. The genius of it, if you want to call it that, is he can claim he was being transparent while simultaneously putting pressure on Engelbert to fix things. He praises her leadership with one breath, then points out massive problems with the next. That's not support. That's a warning shot. and everyone in sports media understood exactly what he was doing. But here's what makes this whole situation absolutely wild. While Silver's playing corporate chess with Engelbert's career, Caitlin Clark is out here playing an entirely different game. She's not worried about internal WNBA politics. She's not stressed about who gets credit for the league's success. She's building an empire that exists completely separate from whether the WNBA survives or collapses. Those speaking deals we mentioned, that's just the visible part. Behind the scenes, Caitlin's negotiating endorsement contracts that dwarf anything the WNBA could offer her. She's being courted by major brands who see her as a cultural icon, not just a basketball player. Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, companies that usually reserve their biggest deals for athletes with championship rings and MVP trophies, are lining up to work with a rookie. Why? Because she has something the WNBA as an institution never built: authentic connection with fans. When Caitlin posts on social media, millions of people engage. When the WNBA's official account posts, it gets a fraction of that attention. She's become more valuable than the league itself. And that's precisely what's terrifying leadership. Let's get into rumor territory for a moment, but sources close to league operations are whispering something fascinating. Apparently, there were internal discussions about whether to feature Caitlin more prominently in WNBA marketing campaigns. Sounds obvious, right? Except not everyone agreed. Multiple sources suggest some executives worried that centering too much attention on one player would diminish everyone else's contributions. If these reports are accurate, and they align with everything else we've seen, that's absolutely insane. The WNBA has spent decades begging for mainstream attention. They finally get a superstar who delivers it, and instead of capitalizing on that moment, they're worried about hurt feelings. That's not leadership. That's sabotage disguised as inclusivity. And this is exactly why players like Nneka Ogwumike and Sophie Cunningham have been so vocal about leadership failures. They see what's happening. The league had a golden opportunity to build around Caitlin's star power while elevating everyone else. But instead they hesitated, overthought it, and let internal politics get in the way of actual business strategy. Sophie's been hinting at potential lockout discussions on social media. Nneka's called out leadership on national television. Even Sabrina Ionescu, who's usually diplomatic about everything, admitted she has a better relationship with Adam Silver than with her own commissioner. When your top talent feels more connected to the NBA than to their own league, that's not a relationship issue. That's a crisis. But here's where Caitlin's strategy gets really interesting. She could torch the entire establishment if she wanted to. One carefully worded interview, one viral tweet, one moment of honesty about how the league has treated her versus how they've treated others. The headlines would write themselves, and Cathy Engelbert's career would be over by Friday. Instead, Caitlin stays silent. She shows up to events, gives gracious speeches, signs autographs for young fans, and pockets checks that make veteran WNBA players jealous. That silence isn't weakness, it's power. Because every day she doesn't complain, every week she builds her brand outside the WNBA's control, she becomes more independent from the system that needs her. Silver knows this. That's why reports suggest he's been trying to rebuild connections with Caitlin behind the scenes.
Just own up and step down. I believe that's what should happen. Cathy need to just walk away. We're going off into the sunset. Well, the half bright sunset, I should say, because it ain't gonna be a good goodbye. But I feel like at this point she gonna have to step down. Stephen A. Smith said it last week, and I'm saying it right now.
Not through official league channels, but through personal outreach, messages through representatives, attempts to have direct conversations about her future. It's damage control disguised as relationship building. And honestly, you can't blame him for trying, because the math is terrifyingly simple. If Caitlin decides the WNBA isn't worth her time anymore, the league loses everything it gained this year. Attendance drops, merchandise sales crater, TV networks lose interest, expansion plans get delayed. The entire historic growth narrative collapses overnight. She's not just their biggest star. She's their entire foundation. And foundations aren't supposed to be built on single players. That's the structural problem Silver accidentally exposed. The WNBA spent so long being mediocre that when greatness finally arrived, they had no idea how to handle it without creating resentment. The contrast with how the NBA operates couldn't be starker. When LeBron entered the league, they built entire marketing campaigns around him. When Steph Curry revolutionized the game, they celebrated it. When Giannis became dominant, they made him the face of international growth. The NBA understands that superstars don't diminish the league, they expand it. But the WNBA, they're still figuring out whether it's okay to admit one player changed everything. They're still having meetings about whether featuring Caitlin too much might upset other players. They're still treating her breakthrough success like it's a problem to be managed rather than an opportunity to be maximized. And that's why this civil war Silver mentioned is so much deeper than relationship issues. It's a fundamental disagreement about what the WNBA should be. Should it be a collective where everyone gets equal attention, regardless of performance? Or should it be a meritocracy where the best players get the biggest platforms? Those two visions cannot coexist, and right now the league is tearing itself apart trying to satisfy both. Caitlin's already made her choice. She's building something bigger than the WNBA. If they want to be part of it, great. If not, she's got options. That's the kind of leverage that changes entire industries. And watching her wield it without saying a word, that's the most savage response Adam Silver could have possibly gotten. So here's where we land. Silver admits the WNBA is fractured. Caitlin proves she doesn't need them to succeed, and everyone else is left wondering what happens next. Will the league fix its leadership problems? Will they actually start treating their biggest star like the asset she is? Or will they keep fumbling until Caitlin decides she's done carrying them? If you want to stay ahead of this story as it unfolds, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because something tells me we're about to see exactly how much power one player can have when they realize they're bigger than the system. Drop your predictions in the comments. Is Caitlin going to revolutionize the WNBA from within, or is she going to build her own empire and leave them behind? Either way, we'll be here breaking it all down. See you in the next one.